What up, everybody? So, I've been meaning to talk about Squid Game 2. It's the second season. Illuminati shirt on deck. It feels like we're in the Illuminati these days, right? With the rising unemployment and the all the weirdo shit, the terrorism. Anyway, I'm not really a conspiracy theory guy at all, but it is funny anyway. Um, Now, Squid Game, I think, is hands down the best TV show. The first season is hands down the best TV show I've seen in like at least a decade. I'm trying to think of a show that I preferred. It's like after The Wire, then this, if that makes sense, type of thing. Yeah, I think the show's brilliant. Like I was shocked, and I saw it fairly like I would say about a week after it debuted on Netflix, um, and I was blown away. In a way that I just wasn't quite blown away with some of the other shows that people hype up, like Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad. Um, Squid Game pulled me in pretty much right away because I saw a very interesting story about the matrix of sort of corporate greed to a certain extent, and how it affects people's lives and how they become desperate and all that. And I was like, no one's talking about this. This is the stuff that needs to be talked about, and they're taking it there. I thought it was brilliant. I really did. And of course, as soon as you saw the famous red light, green light scene, you were like, oh. You know when there's many things that occurred in Squid Game the first season. I could go on and on about the first season. The first season is easily one of the best seasons of television ever made. And it's rare that something dope would actually come out. You know, we live in an era of super mediocrity that's put on a pedestal. So it's nice when something genuinely amazing comes out. And it just cut right through. You know, Squid Game would have been even bigger if it was made out here. But of course, because of how corrupted our arts institutions are out here, I would argue nothing like a Squid Game could have been made, unfortunately, because people want the dumb shit. And people with power in the art scene are focused on mediocrity. It's all identity politics and putting whack there. Like the storytelling is gone. Nobody really wants to say anything that's like dangerous or interesting or just in a way that's entertaining story. They just don't care. But how there was a couple of things that really made me go, oh, this shit is something else. Um, so obviously the red light, green light sketch was like, whoa. Not sketch, but scene. But to me, the thing that's really brilliant about Squid Game, and they've really capitalized on this in the second season, and I can understand why. But the brilliant thing about Squid Game, and I don't think I'd be very curious to see if any screenwriters figure this out. But when I realized the Squid Game was pure genius, was when they let them go. If you remember, they let them go. And by the way, sorry, spoilers. If you haven't seen the first Squid Game, like, I don't know where you've been at. But anyways, the point is, they let them go in the second episode of the first season. After they've experienced this red light, green light craziness, they're like, and they're all in shock and stuff. They're like, all right, y'all want to go? Like, you vote on it, you can leave. And they leave. They have the option to leave. And I was like, whoa, what the fuck? And then they voted, a lot of them, not all of them, but most of them decided to come back. That's when I was like, oh, this show's genius. Because you see, all the Battle Royale, Alice in Borderland, a lot of these Hunger Games, a lot of this sort of thing, because it's not new, essentially, this Battle Royale ass thing. It's not new to have people fighting for their lives in a sense. It's a common trope in literature, fairly common. It's very common, particularly in the Eastern um, storytelling scene, from what I understand. But the reason why Squid Game to me was sheer genius was I've never seen a story that actually gives people the option to participate. That to me was insane. And I went, oh, this guy's on some other shit. Because it really changes the dynamic of the show and the vibe when people actually have the choice to participate. Now, they're participating willfully in something they don't understand and they don't know the full ramifications. I think that's brilliant, and very much is reflective in a way of life in general, or particularly when you have a um, well-informed, well-funded, oppressive um, hierarchy or people at the top who put people at the bottom through these games that the people at the bottom are just trying to basically figure out what the hell is going on. But the people at the top already know what's going on, right? And it kind of gets you to willingly participate in shit that really, the outcome of it is not going to help you. It's really for them, right? Anyway, the point is the fact that they made it like a choice, I thought was really brilliant. Now, they made it a choice. They didn't tell you the full details. Again, another brilliant aspect of it. But that thing of, okay, you've seen the first crazy game, we let you go, and then you came back, it was like, oh, these guys are making a statement about this desperation of folk out here. And it's desperate times, man. It's that between the terrorism, the low employment, that like it's bad. It's bad, and that's the thing. And people are doing all kinds of things to get by. Some of it illegal, some of it depraved, whatever. And they are choosing. Again, it's a weird thing, but they are somewhat choosing to participate in these things. And again, I thought that was brilliant. It really reflects sort of the desperation of the situation. And then also, on from a viewer's perspective, it humanizes them in a way, because then you're like, well, or I should say, it does humanize them, but also at the same time, it also puts me off the hook a little bit, because now I'm like, okay, well, y'all chose this. Let's see where this goes. I can't really, like, I feel sorry for you, but at the same time, like, I can't go all in, because, like, y'all chose this crazy shit. It's different from the first people, because they didn't know, but, like, you guys had an idea of how gruesome the shit is, and you came back, you know? um, Anyways, there's many brilliant moments in the first season. I can't go through all of them. The games are brilliant. The way that they escalate in difficulty and shock is brilliant. The whole season, it's literally a genius show. I won't play this because of copyright. They'll block the shit forever, probably. But this Ali, that scene in Squid Game, again, brilliant. Okay, when he been playing marbles and he figures out he's been had. Genius. And he's like, someone. He's like calling out to this guy he trusts. It's like, yo, why you trust this nigga? Like, it's a game to the death. This was brilliant. What really had me like, when I realized, I was like, oh, I am watching some next level shit. I mean, again, throughout the series, I felt that. Tug of war, the whole thing. But this glass bridge, the 7th episode of the first season, I've never been on edge so much in the last 10 years. I was like, when these cats were trying to figure out like which glass was like the good, I was on edge. Brilliant. Everything, like this entire scene or moment was written perfectly, and is a classic. It's an instant classic. How they went about it. The white guys in the back who were, oh. And you know what's interesting? I remember when Squid Game came out, people were offended, especially some of these white guys who were like, oh, how dare you? It's like, again, this is what I'm talking about. They kept it 100. It's coming out of Korea. They kept it real. White supremacy, the fact white guys got all the money, they're making us run around for these games. Anyway, so I love the first season. Now, we go into the second season. The second season, I have to say, was disappointing. It's not trash. There are some good moments in the second season, but you could definitely see things kind of slowing down a bit. First of all, as much as I like the first season of Squid Game, the way that it ended to me was like, wait a second. Oh no, don't go back into Squid Game. Don't do Prison Break, okay? Because if y'all remember Prison Break, the TV show that came out in the early 2000s, the first season was incredible. And they break out of prison, you're like, great. But then the second season, they're like, There's still kind of like there's this grand conspiracy, and it was kind of interesting, but it was also kind of like okay. And then at the end of the second season, they're like, we're gonna go break back into prison. It was like, okay, I'm gone. I'm off this. This is ridiculous. And so in a way, I kind of felt like Squid Game season two would do the same thing, where he like gets back into the game, and I was like, ah man, this is Prison Break vibes all over again, and this is gonna make the shit lame, unless they like, you know, really make it something, like spectacular. And I have to say, I have mixed opinions on that. So I'll tell you what I liked. I did like that there's a little bit more of explanation, or a little bit more exploration of this idea of inversion of reality. And watching some of these scenes, like when the guy, I can't remember, Jihoon, I think, the main character, when he's like, look, I've done this game before, like I can tell you what it's about, and people are just like, well, we don't believe you and all this stuff. And I just was like, wow. And the way that you could see the psychology of people who are just so greedy and so desperate to make money that they are willing to throw away basic common sense. I was like, this reminds me of everything that's going on with this Hamas war. It's like, again, like you have somebody who's literally who's literally experienced exactly what it is you're about to experience, right? Who's telling you, watch out for this, watch out for that. And you're like, nah, he's trying to trick us, so he doesn't know what he's talking about. And you're like, whoa. But that is human nature, unfortunately. And when I saw it, I went, I guess I can't really go, like, I mean, obviously I'm going to go hard on, Jew haters, but I can't really go super, super hard on them, because in a way, this is human nature. Inversion of narrative and inversion of reality is a part of human nature. It's the sad part of human nature, but it is part of human nature. So I thought that there were moments in there where I was laughing, and also just like very like, wow, this is deep that they're even exploring this, because again, modern entertainment is not talking about any of this real shit. They're not, right? They're making weak ass movies and putting them on a pedestal, and they're all fluff pieces, right? Barbie, shit that you're like, this is not about nothing. So I thought that, and it's not told in a way, the story is not told well ultimately, because it's one thing to make these identity films, it's another thing to just craft a narrative that tells things while also being entertaining at the same time. So I like that, and I thought that that was very sharp of the creator. But at the same time, I thought that the constant voting that they did in this season, in season two, was really bad, and it just slowed the pace of it killed tension, and it slowed the pace of the season to a crawl. I mean, I don't think they needed to do that many votes, but I get the idea. And again, it is an interesting sort of psychological experiment if they are allowed to vote every single time after every game. I like that. The concept is interesting. And again, they went kind of more into that, because that was kind of the really genius thing that they did from the first season. But I think they kind of overdid it. And even if they were to do the voting after every game, I think that's something they could have sped up. I don't think they should have spent so much time, logging every single vote and all that kind of stuff. I think they could have really sped through that. Like, okay, after every game, people vote, or say what's kind of pertinent or interesting about the psychology of that, and then just speed through it. And it's like, okay, boom, here's the outcome type of thing. So I thought that was a little weak. And I did like I did like the Mingle. This one game. This was freaking cute.
이번 게임은 이번 게임은 짝짓기 게임입니다.
This game again was the best one by far, because it's the only thing that kind of harkened back to the childlike brutality of the first season. I thought some of the other games were a little lame, to be honest with you. First of all, repeating with red light, green light, I wasn't really on board with that. But I do like that, at least, because I was worried. Once they repeated that, I was like, oh no, don't tell me they're going to repeat all these games. Like, I've seen this before. But at least they introduced new games. Now, the new games that they introduced, I wasn't a huge fan of. Like that one where it was like almost like a decathlon or whatever you call it. You have to do certain things and keep moving. That game was kind of meh to me, honestly. But this was really funny. This is love the comment here. Song, heart expression, warm. Situation, death. Everyone, everyone's like, fuck, what's about to happen? Um, and the one character Thanos, who I was kind of on the fence about, but he's a psycho. Um, so there were things in there that I liked. I thought this game and the outcome of this game was pretty good. But I have to say that's sort of like where it ends for me. Um, the negative part of this is I think some of it. A couple of things. One, I actually don't think this season. I think they've toned down the violence, which I don't like. Because I thought the first season, even the way that they shot the violence, the headshots, and even like the even the way the variety of violence that they use for like for example, first it's like getting shot, right? From snipers from far. So it's like, what the hell's going on, right? And red light, green light, and then it's the getting shot up close, right? Which is brutal. It's again, those are two different things, right? Psychologically, getting shot up close for when they were working on the candies in the first season, to then changing it to no more of like people getting shot, just tug of war, falling from a height. I mean, falling from a ridiculous height and dying is very scary. So they varied the stakes and the deaths. Um, and then to then the contestants rioting and stabbing each other. Like there was a lot of violence, but it was very varied. Whereas I found in this, it was just like too many guns. It was just like all the whole time. It was like it was just boring, right? So didn't feel as visceral to me. Number one, and I wish they kind of came up with something a little bit more like some of the other games were much more interesting. And even the idea of revolting against the game while in the game and grabbing the guns and shit, I thought was kind of silly, to be honest with you. They spent so much time on it, and then it's like, at the end, of course, the front man is there all along and he betrays. And it just took too long for that shit, because you were like, I know how this is gonna end. It's not gonna work, right? Once the viewer already knows how this is gonna end, and it's very obvious that this is how it's gonna end. It's gonna end with the front man winning the shit. Speed it up. Don't waste my time, right? What you want to draw out is when we don't know. When we don't know and like the tension is high, and you can draw it out because that increases tension, and then we're like, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? But when it's obvious what the outcome of something is going to be, it's like, get to it. I personally would have gone a different route with it. But I didn't like that. I didn't think the violence really worked. I didn't think the multiple votes thing worked. I also feel like the characters, the contestants weren't as interesting. They were kind of annoying, actually. Thanos was annoying and kind of corny. The lady who was like a priestess or whatever, she was corny and weird. Even the best friend of Ji-hoon, I guess is his name, or the guy, it's kind of meh. They didn't stand out. None of these like secondary characters stood out the way that in the first season they really stood out. Ali, for example, Pakistani guy who's coming to Korea to escape a harsh life in Pakistan and survive as an immigrant. Sang-woo, who's this like intellectual fraudster of sorts. The pretty I don't know if she's from North Korea, but like the pretty girl who ends up dying towards the end of the series. There's all these sort of characters and people that, of course, the gangster and the girl that he ends up betraying, and she, they kind of have this toxic relationship, and she takes him down. Like there's classic moments like that and classic people that I just felt like Squid Game 2 did not have, which was unfortunate. So, but I don't think that this is trash. I definitely don't think this is trash. I definitely think that this is still one of the better TV shows for sure, and I would love to know where they go with it. The one thing I also thought was interesting in the first episode, I think, where he was like, the creator actually mentions the Matrix. I think somebody was literally, I think a character was like, well, do you think this is like the Matrix or something like that? And it kind of caught me off guard a little bit. I smiled and at the same time, because again, I love the Matrix. and I love Matrix-like things. Squid Games is like the Matrix, but it's not the Matrix. And this is what I'm getting at. You guys will watch when you see Blood World. Too many shows and too many movies copied the Matrix directly, right? And that's why they failed, because you can't just copy the Matrix directly. I mean, why would you? The Matrix is its own thing. You got to do something different. But that aspect of putting people in the world that they don't quite fully understand, there's a covert thing going on that the Matrix does really well. You can do that in another way and make it your own. And so, and of course, and I feel like we're all kind of people who love this kind of stuff in particular, that sort of like mind bending philosophical shit. We all know the good shit, and I like that he mentioned it in a way, because I was like, yeah, like I feel you, man. When you mentioned it, yeah, I was like, that's exactly, I feel you. I know that you're a huge Matrix fan, just like me, and we like that kind of like mind bending shit. But at the same time, it also took me out a little bit because Squid Game is his own thing. So, long story short, this was okay. I want to see where they go with this. Look, to me, the top question that I have, because I felt like season one kind of, this is a show that really one season could have just done it and it would have been over. But of course, something so huge and so brilliant, like everyone wants to go back. So I get it. But I think when you're making a show, especially following up something that is a groundbreaking, and best believe Squid Game is groundbreaking. It is 100% groundbreaking. People don't necessarily, of course, American media and Canadian media and stuff might not realize how groundbreaking, but I said this when it came out. This is a groundbreaking show. You should be trying to copy and, well, not copy full, but the kind of people that can write and make this kind of stuff, like me, and I'm sure other people, talk to us, because we can come with some shit that you've never seen before, right? This is a groundbreaking show. And the point is that it's only in the next like maybe 5-10 years you'll start to see people give this show the credit that it rightfully deserves. And people will start to analyze it, and you'll see all these script gurus will be like, oh, this is how they did it in Squid Game and all this stuff. It's like, okay, you guys are late, okay? Like, analyze the stuff now. Because this was hands down just brilliant, and of course came from somewhere else. It didn't come from North America, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, however you look at it. The point is, strong writing will always win. Storytelling is king. It's all about good storytelling. My knock with a lot of stuff, whether it be music or film, is that the actual core of what they're doing, the emotional core, the emotional storytelling, the charm, the wit is weak. The imagination is all weak, right? And Squid Game has a ton of imagination. Even the sets are imaginative. The sets are amazing, gorgeous sets, stuff you've never seen before. You just haven't seen this shit before. I mean, again, you guys expect me to be, and I say this is no disrespect to Game of Thrones, but I've seen that world before, right? Like, medieval Europe with dragons. I've seen all that shit. Like, that's cool, and they did it fairly well, especially in the first season. But the fact of the matter is, I've actually never seen, people walking into some sort of giant dollhouse, who are about to get slaughtered or whatever, and they hear gunfire as the people who lost the contest are getting killed off screen or whatever. I've never seen that shit, frankly. So I'm all about people that do new things, and especially new, innovative, and interesting things. So I would say, long story short, this second season was disappointing, but let's see where they go with it, and I'm locked in. So, but yes, the question is, to me, if you're gonna do a second season to something that is so groundbreaking, this is the Matrix problem again, right? How do you follow up something that's so brilliant, that almost is so contained in itself, that almost doesn't require follow-up? Well, I think you start to answer the questions that the audience have. And I think you start to answer the real questions that weren't explored at all. To me, personally, the number one question that's always on my mind is, well, who's funding these games? Right? Like, I thought that the white guys who are like with the with the little mask and stuff, who are like enjoying this stuff, I thought that was brilliant. I would love to know a little bit more about them, or sort of a little bit more of a reveal of that world, maybe, I guess. Who's funding the games, I think, is number one, I would say, like, of most interesting. are there other games happening? What else would I love to know? Yeah, like who created them to begin with? But that's it. There's not that many games, or I should say, there's not that many questions that I have because I feel like the first season answered a lot of them. So if you are going to continue to have the Squid Games and people participating in these games to the death, then at that point make them just like the Mingle, more of the same kind of but childlike and fun and that kind of thing. Make sure that the quality of the games are good. So I hope you saw it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Feel free. And did you enjoy it like I did? Again, I liked it, but I didn't love it, and I did think that it was a little slow. Oh, the last thing I wanted to say, speaking of how slow this was, is the guy who's trying to go in. The cop that's trying to go in because his brother is the front man and stuff. First of all, I thought that whole thing was shoehorned in the first season to begin with. So I was never a huge fan of that sort of subplot, but it was intriguing to a certain extent. But here it's just like they're taking forever. They're like on an island and they're checking GPS and they're checking their drone, and it's just like, oh my god, this is taking forever. And like clearly you guys are not doing anything. It's like so obvious you're not gonna find this dude, like, or let's find this island. And I also thought again, this show, the second season was almost, it wasn't as intelligently written because if I start to figure out things, this is where it gets tough because the first season I don't know what's going on, but now I'm the second. But now you've educated me as like I'm talking as an audience member, so now I'm like smart like you. So it's like, how do you keep me on my toes? That's where it gets difficult. And like to me, their ship captain, whoever the guy who was taking them to these islands, to me it was obvious as hell that he was in and on it. Like to me, I was like, why would you trust this guy? Like, clearly, if this is an island that isn't supposed to be found, and this is the one guy who is, sort of, taking care of ships in this area, don't you think that he would be in on it? Like, and so this sort of shock that like it gets revealed towards the end that he was actually in on it, he kills a crewmate, was like, okay, this took too long, right? It took too long to reveal this, and frankly, it's obvious. So anyway. If I think about Squid Game Season 2 too much, I go, yeah, this was disappointing. But again, you're following up something that's sheer genius. It's tough. All right? So let me know what you think, man. Peace.